So we're going to start with the Pilgrim's Road is what they call it. And I'm going to read just not necessarily just to speed things up, but I'm going to just read, it's only a couple verses tonight from Matthew 20. So if you have your Bibles, I'm in Matthew 20, 29. So Matthew 20, 29. And as they went out of Jericho, a crowd followed him, and behold, there were two blind men sitting by the roadside. And when they had heard that Jesus was passing by, they cried out, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David." The crowd rebuked them, telling them to be silent. But they cried out all the more, "Lord, have mercy on us, Son of David." And stopping, Jesus called them and said, "What do you want me to do for you?" They said to him, "Lord, let our eyes be open." And Jesus, in pity, touched their eyes, and immediately they recovered their sight and followed him. Okay? So we're going to start with, and this is hard, don't worry, it's not, we'll get to it, but there is a road that's called the Pilgrim's Road that would have led up to what would be the Temple Mount, up to the temple, okay? So this is talking like years ago. This is just a little different today, but there was a road, excuse me, that led up. At the bottom of the road is the pool of Siloam, okay? So, and we'll get to the pool later and show you what's left of it. So, Eastern Road, Pilgrim's Road, there's a couple of different names that they have for it, but this really is the road that, again, that would have led up. So on the road, they have a model, okay, of what it would have looked like then, okay? And I've got some other pictures of just some models or just some mock-ups of what it would have looked like back then. So let me stop for just a second on this. This is actually, the Pilgrim's Road is actually not open for the public yet. And you're going to see why in just a second. This is newly discovered, and I mean, this was one of my favorite spots. It wasn't number one, but it wasn't far off. This was really, really incredible. One, it's not open. It's not even done yet. They've recently just discovered it, and it's one of the discoveries that it puts a lot of this together as far as some of the pieces in Jesus and going up the road and going up towards the temple. So years ago, this is what it would have looked like, the roadside. There you would have had places where you could stop and get food. You know, you could get, I guess you wouldn't buy animals, but they would have products for the animals, different things that you could have bought. Here's kind of a better picture. This is actually a mural that somebody painted, and it shows you just as far as the roadway up the hill, basically, from the Pool of Siloam. This Pool of Siloam would have been all the way at the bottom of the hill, because the Pool of Siloam was there for cleansing. You would have stayed down there to cleanse yourself, and then you would have went up the road eventually to the temple. Okay, let's go on. So here is the actual road, and so you can see why it's closed to the public. We had special permission to go into it. And so here's what happened is they discovered the Pool of Siloam, and when they discovered it, the person that was digging a little bit and finding all this stuff, they found this drainage tunnel. And they're like, well, this is odd. And so they found this drainage tunnel that went all the way up to where the temple would have been. So little by little, they took all the debris, rock, dirt out of the drainage tunnel. And as they're taking and discovering this drainage tunnel, then the person discovered the road that's on top of the drainage tunnel. And you'll see a couple pictures. So now what they're doing is, you can see, like, they're coming through and they're literally digging out where the road would have been, the road that would have led up to the temple from the Pool of Siloam. And so it's super fascinating, and it is all uphill. Like, there's not, right here is obviously pretty rough as far as you're going up, but, excuse me, it's all uphill. So this is actually a shot. I turned around and I'm looking down to where I came from, up this way. And so you're going up this road. There's some significance to this road, as we know. Here's some of the original road. And literally what they're doing is they're building these columns, these dome-type columns over it as they're excavating and taking the dirt out. Why? Is because on top of it is people's houses. So like they've just built over top of this road, and so they're taking, and get this, they dig it out by hand with buckets and with picks and shovels, and they literally put it in buckets. You can't see it really well, but there's a conveyor system right here where they take the buckets, they hook it to it, and they take the buckets out, and they literally go through every single bucket. Again, this is just looking down. Another shot looking down, just looking down the road. So the road, there was some incline to the road. It was not going to be a flat road. There's definitely spots where it was definitely smooth for a little bit. It wasn't like it was completely always uphill. So again, like this here, they put these columns in. This is not like a dome structure. This is more of a rectangle or a square structure they put in just to hold everything, because they're literally again taking dirt away from underneath people's houses. They've literally put like on this, you can't see it, but on the ceiling up here, and it's not super tall, they have all these little black circles, and they're all the way down through here, and the black circles are sensors. They have this whole thing hooked up so that they can start seeing, like, is the ground moving, or are we doing something to everything that's on top of it. So they're very careful. Excuse me. Here's another, shot going down. There's the conveyor belt system where they take the buckets out. This is obviously flat, even though it's on an incline. And then here's an example of so right in here, they would be digging this dirt out by hand, shovel, picks, taking all the dirt, putting it in buckets. They take the buckets, take them to an off-site outside of Jerusalem, and they literally go through all the dirt, debris, just to make sure there's nothing in it, as far as they won't obviously throw it away. They obviously now put air into this, as obviously to get air flowing and so forth. This one here is kind of more of a little bit uphill, but you can see it's totally flat, but you're going to be going uphill a little bit. So here was the moment. Okay, so this was one of these moments on the trip that so there's a passage, and I have to look for it, where Jesus stops and he's teaching a little bit. So here's what happened. They started uncovering these steps, right? So they're uncovering these steps in hopes that they would find a house or a building behind it, but they didn't. What they found was, right here was a wall, but nothing behind it, just a wall. Okay, so you can see that wall right there. That wall is there, right? So they're like, this was very common back then, where they would have these spots like this, and what that would be, it would be like almost like a stage. You would go up, and people would literally, if they're selling a sheep or a lamb, or remember, somebody lost a lamb. Hey, did anybody see my lamb? So it was almost like a podium on the road where people could get someone's attention and so forth. And we know, based on this road, Jesus was on this road coming out of the pool of Siloam. Remember, the pool of Siloam is where when he put dirt, he spit in the dirt, rubbed it in the guy's eyes, and he had him go wash. That was the pool of Siloam. So we know that Jesus was on this road, and there's a chance that Jesus, this is a spot where he would have stopped and he would have taught from. So we were there. The group went ahead and took off. And so me and my buddy Matt, I don't have a picture of Matt, but Matt says to me, he's like, hey, jump up on there. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, seriously, jump up on there. I mean, if Jesus literally was there and teaching from there, he's like, don't you want to stand there? And I was like, you can see, like, I'm almost hitting my head. So I was like, yeah. So I jumped up on, he took a picture, and then he jumped up on, and I took a picture of him as well. So it was a fascinating, as far as just to see it and just to imagine, like, Jesus there and teaching the crowds. So these are just, some of these pictures are just things that you saw as you walked up the road. This is a hole. This was obviously a building, would have been a doorway into a building. And so they're obviously very, very careful about uncovering this. And they're doing it super slow, because this is a huge discovery that they have not seen, obviously, for years and years. Okay, so more of the kind of the dome that they're creating, rocks, you'll see that like they label stuff. There's a label right there, labels there. So when they discover things, they label it just to make sure, it's not something that they need, or maybe it is something that it was to a building or stuff like that. They didn't tell us. Like, I was like, they had a special guy that literally walked us through here just by permission, and he's showing us everything. And I wanted to ask, and I didn't ask him during it, was like, when do you think the estimated time would be open that people in the public, like all of us, if we could go back over and just walk it? Like, what do they think? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and so forth. And I don't know. So obviously these are just some pictures of them taking stuff out. So I want to show you. Remember, I told you the drainage tunnel is how they found this, and there's the drainage tunnel right there. Like, there's the drainage tunnel. It is, it's not wide at all. If you're claustrophobic, it's not your spot. So they gave us the option. At one point, we got to the spot where they stopped, as far as they've stopped excavating because they can't go any farther yet. So we had to come back up out of the hole, basically. And so we got up there and we're walking, and they're like, "Hey, does anybody want to walk through the drainage tunnel the rest of the way up to the Temple Mount?" And so, man, I'm like, I'm doing it. So a couple of us did it. There was actually 2 that didn't. One, there's no way he would have been able to fit through. I'm just going to be honest. When I was going through the drainage tunnel at one point, I had a backpack, I had a backpack on. I had to somehow get my backpack off. I had got it off like this, and then I had to turn sideways and hold my backpack here, but I had to go down like this and almost like slide to get through because it was super tight. So that's the drainage tunnel. When you're in the drainage tunnel, you can look up, and you can see, obviously, like here, you're looking up and you're actually seeing the sun and so forth. So this is an area where the road the road is not above this one currently, or they haven't dug it out and so forth, right? So now, here's what happened. So this is actually a spot where when they've dug out the drainage tunnel, and then they found these spots here where this is an opening that goes up to the road. So this is a door that, you pulled up. The door's obviously not original, but it gives you the option to look down into the drainage tunnel. They told us, and I don't have any of the specifics or the details about it, but they told us that there was one time where Jerusalem was attacked, and they put everybody in the drainage tunnel to save their life. They took all the ladies and the kids and everybody, and they said, "Go in the drainage tunnel and hide there." And so they hid there. Here's some more pictures of the drainage tunnel. And I got to be honest. If I went down there with like 1,000 people to hide, I don't think I could do it. I don't know mentally if I could. Like, I was in a U.S. submarine one time, and I really, really struggled just in this. I didn't get claustrophobic when I went through this, but it was definitely difficult. This spot is obviously pretty wide. It's shoulder to shoulder. This is a Pastor Chris from up in Maine. He's a decent-sized guy, and he made it through, so forth. So I had a video, but I'm not going to be able to show it to you guys, just of the drainage tunnel. So this is coming up out of the drainage tunnel. This is kind of where we went to get into the drainage tunnel. It's another area, this whole road system that they're discovering, where they're digging stuff out. This is obviously where they're digging stuff up on the ground right now, and you can see where the houses are at. So you can see where the dirt was, and now they've taken all this dirt away, and they're discovering stuff. Again, this would have been the road leading up to the Temple Mount. Okay. So let's go, and just pictures as you're going up the road. Let me give you one picture. This is not the road, okay? So this is not the road that's underground, but this is what it would have been like then. As far as, you have a wall here, you have some structures and so forth. Obviously this is a newer one, so you have smaller stones as far as the road. This is what it would have been like back then. So this is actually a replicate of the road that they've put in, and so forth, with the columns and so forth. So, okay. Let's jump. So these pictures are, if you would have walked the road the whole way, you would have gotten up here, and this is now This is really right up to the temple, the walls and the Temple Mount. And so this was now kind of like a museum in Jerusalem. And so this is where the road would have led to. Okay? I don't want to spend too much time here. Another interesting one. Yes? In 2 years. Ooh, awesome. So this was a little, like a little viewfinder that they had sitting up here. So this is actually the view. This is actually the viewfinder. But these are the steps going up into where it would have been to the gates. And these steps are steps where Jesus would have taught from, and where he would have taught, and so forth. So let's look here if I can see this. Again, this is the road. This would have been up towards it. So it's hard for us to see on this, but you have the 3 gates right here. 1, 2, and the third gate's there. There was on this wall there was the 3 gates, and then that way there's 2 gates. So anyhow, okay. So let's go ahead and move to the pools. Okay. So we're leaving the Pilgrim's Road, and just again, so fascinating, and just knowing that Jesus walked up and down that road, just an incredible. Okay, so we're gonna go to the pools. So we'll just, for time's sake, we're not gonna read anything right now. So this is, let's see. Okay, so this is a model of the pool of Bethesda. Okay, so you would have had the pools here. Obviously, these columns, that were separating the 2 different spots. The pools are not meant for swimming. They didn't have, floaties, and the kids didn't have goggles on. And you follow me, right? These were pools for cleansing. Okay. So this is actually Bethesda, the pool of Bethesda here. This is kind of the area when you're walking up to it. And I know you're going to be like, I cannot wait to see this pool. Is it going to be refreshing? Mark, you know what's coming. Is it going to be refreshing? It's going to be awesome. I'm going to want to jump right in. Here's a couple things when you're walking into the pool of Bethesda. Again, they've put a church there, a Roman Catholic church, which is a pretty common theme a lot of places that you go. And so here is the church right here. Yeah, church is right here. So there's the church. There's a better picture of the entrance in. You got the little fountain here where you can cleanse your hands before you go in. Now, when you look at the front of this, you're like, this thing it's not big at all. Looks are deceiving. So we'll get to it in just a second. So here is really what's left of the pool of Bethesda. There's not a lot, and I'll get you a little closer to it. So what you see here, and I know it's hard just because of the screens, but what you see here, down here is really where the pools would have been. All of this is just stuff that has unfortunately just been piled on over time. The house, the dirt line is up here where their houses are. So you're looking way down. And I'm guessing that this is probably 20 to 25 feet. I don't think 30, but it's pretty deep. So this here was buried just like normal. People have come in whenever Jerusalem was attacked. Things get burnt, things get destroyed. So let's just, instead of doing anything and rebuilding them, let's just cover them over and just start over. So that's a typical theme you're going to find in Israel. And so they've started, I don't know how many years ago, digging back out of this area where the pool of Bethesda is. And so this here, again, is very, very deep. And I'll show you some more of it in just a second. So you're just walking around, you're seeing these ruins that are left. You have people's houses that are all around the pool of Bethesda. There's these openings here, and that opening there, I'm guessing the opening there, it's probably at least 20 feet drop down to the water level. Is that a hand that you have up, or you're just, okay. What's that? No, go for it. Yeah. So yes, and now some of the wall is still, you can see some of the original wall today. There are spots where you can actually see. Yeah. So it depends on where you're at in Jerusalem as well. So, like for example, we went. Obviously, if anybody goes to Jerusalem, you're going to go to the Western Wall. I mean, like that's just like that's the thing. There's actually they've discovered tunnels underneath that obviously lead to, and when you go in those tunnels and you go under the Western Wall, you can go to the original Western Wall and touch it and pray right there. And so that's pretty incredible to see, especially when you see stones that are probably honestly as long as this row of chairs here, that are just like, how in the world did they pick these stones up and place them one? I mean, they're massive, and you're like, the innovation that they had back then to be able to move these stones and place these to build these walls, it's just fascinating. Because now, like, you think about it, if you were on a construction site now and you're like, hey, we're going to use picks and we're going to use shovels and you're like, no, I'm going to find another job. Or we've got these big stones that we're going to place one on top of another. Oh, yeah, we don't have any cranes that are coming in. We're going to figure out ways to do it. People will be like, you're crazy. So, yes, you're right. Think about this. It'd be like, I only got a couple books, but it'd be like, basically what you're saying is you've got this Bible, and then you put this Bible on top, and then you put another Bible on top, and you put another Bible on top, and that's just really the best example of, what they've done. So, anyhow. Okay, so if you've been here, these are the steps that you're going to take and descend down into where the original pool of Bethesda would have been. Okay, so it does look super tight, just so you know. I'm about 6'1", and so, but it wasn't. It's not as tight as what it looks. Yeah, it is tight, but it's not as tight. Okay, so this is. Don't look at the picture on the right. So this is original. This is down at the level. The farthest level is where the pool of Bethesda was. Okay, so you can obviously see water here. The water would fill up as far as there were cisterns there, and the water would fill up, and then it would flow over into the pools, and you would be able to cleanse yourself in this water. I wouldn't cleanse myself in this water today. I looked at that water, and I was like, I'm going to be good staying out of it. So this is just a couple of different shots of looking into where this is the one spot that they'll let you get this close to the water from where the original pool was. Okay, and the water was really kind of nasty. It didn't smell, but it just definitely you're not going to want to drink it. So okay. Here is, remember the opening that I told you? There's the opening. So they had these steps up. These steps that go up. I know these pictures are kind of hard to see on a big screen like this, but there's steps up out of this area where you would see. And excuse me. Now this area, even though like it's like this, I mean, all of us would be able to do it. All of us would be able to go down the steps. It was not something that was not doable. There's handrails. The steps were not slippery. They weren't steep. They did have some coating on them just so that you wouldn't fall or anything. And it was definitely worth going down to, and also just seeing it, and then coming back up. It wasn't very difficult. It looks worse than what it is. Okay, so these are just a picture of the steps coming back up out of the pool. This one here says this. I found this sign. It said the Southern Pool. Again, you walk around the property. This one here, they let you get pretty close to the ruins. They don't have a lot of things kind of marked off, and so you're able to kind of walk around and see a lot of the ruins that are left. Obviously, from that first model that you saw, there was something that was definitely built around with a lot of columns and areas where people would be able to gather. So. Somebody told me, and I still haven't totally figured out with my mind. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not right, but they said, you know why they build this like this arch thing. And so they're like, because, when you walk around the streets of Jerusalem, these arches are everywhere. and you see them all over the place. And I was like, why did they build the ark? They said, because that will make the structure so much stronger. Yeah, strength. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, how can we place a couple rocks this way? How would that? And they're like, it really does. When this is off topic just a little bit, but when you're close to the Western Wall, there's a spot you can get to where you're up over the Western Wall and you're looking down into the Western Wall. And we were there we actually went to the Western Wall purposely. We went there as they took Sabbat in. So Sabbat, the sun was going down, Sabbat was coming in. And so the Jews were gathering there for opening of Sabbat. And so, but my point is, when we were up there looking down in, we're walking across the roof of people's houses. And you're walking across their roof, and you literally, this is the truth. Literally, we're talking stones. Like these stones are like, there's no shingles. It's stones. And I'm like, how is the weight of this on someone's roof? I mean, I remember one time my roof, we were replacing it, and my roofing contractor said, hey, this is going to be awesome for your house. I was like, why is that? They said, your back part of your house, it had 5 layers of shingles on it. They said the weight on your house is going to be, but I'm thinking these people have rocks on their roof for shingles. So, okay, back to it. So again, these are just some of the spots as far as there at the pool. So, looking down. This is obviously looks just like a cap or something. There's another way to go down in. Okay, so we'll just stop really quick here, and that's really the church that's there. Again, there's a Catholic church that's there, and so it's a really, really big. Like the front doesn't look big, but you get inside this thing, it is big. But it's all stone. And the acoustics are amazing. So there was 13 of us on the trip, right? And so all pastors. So we get in there and somebody starts just singing a worship song. And we ended up for probably 20 minutes just worshiping. We sat here on the step. There's some steps across. We sat on the steps. We stood. We worshiped. It was something. I'm an explorer, so after the worship set was over, right, I started walking around because I'm like, I want to see this place. And so you can see a lot of the rocks, because of just the way it's built, and there's hills on the one side. Obviously, I told you this is kind of like a cleansing fountain where when you'd walk in, obviously to cleanse your hands. So when you go downstairs, there was a set of stairs, and it didn't say "do not enter." So I was like, "Well, let's check it out." So this is the basement. If there's a basement, they would call it a basement. This is the basement above the church. So I got down there. It's not real tall, so I had to duck a couple places. This is actually looking out the one door. This is actually looking up. This is at the very front, but I'm looking across the front of it. Okay, and this is another one downstairs. There was so many levels underneath it. And so again, there was no signs that says do not come down. And so I ended up going all around, just kind of looking around. This is actually a picture I took. These guys, a couple of guys I was with, they started singing first, and I could hear it. It just echoed. And so I ended up taking the picture as I was walking up, and we just stood there for probably 20 minutes and just one song after another and just worshiped God. It was pretty incredible. So front door of the church. So my students asked me when we go through a lot of these, they'd say how often do they have mass at these Roman Catholic churches? I don't know. Because a lot of these ones are inside of a biblical, historical Jesus site, and so, you don't just walk in. There's gates for all of them. There's, for some of them, you have to pay an entrance fee and stuff like that. So, okay, so these are a couple more pictures. I didn't realize they're out of order, but these are a couple more pictures of what I found when I went downstairs, just kind of walking and finding rooms and all kinds of things that were underneath the church. So. Okay, so we started with this one. Let's see where we're going to go next. Okay, so now we go from the Pool of Bethesda, which the Pool of Bethesda is geography. It's by the Jaffa Gate, so it's gonna be up this way, I believe, if my geography is right, up in this way. So the Pool of Siloam, I told you, is down the hill. You have the Kidron Valley, and so the pool is down here, and then that road that they are discovering right now comes up this way. Okay, so this is the Pool of Siloam. Yes. It wouldn't be just the old, it would be the road that led up, but yeah, I guess you could say it's some of the old part of Jerusalem. So now the Pool of Siloam, again, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, that was the spot. Remember Jesus, he encountered the guy, he was blind, can I be healed? Jesus grabs the dirt, spits in it, rubs it in his eyes, and says, go wash. And so the Pool of Siloam is the place that he went to wash off before he went to the temple. So the chronological order right now is, I told you this, is what happened was, and I'll show you a couple pictures in just a second, but what happens is that there was a house on top of the Pool of Siloam. So somebody lived there, and they're having some issues with the sewer system, or they're having some type of issues. And so they had a repair guy there, and so they started to dig to replace whatever needed fixed. And as they started digging, they hit something, or they discovered something, or whatever. And so they're like, whoa, what is this? And because this is just more recent. So the Pool of Siloam, they didn't know where it was at. It was one that was just like, as Charlie said, stuff gets buried and built on top of and so forth, right? So here's a good example. So this is standing looking in, and you can see the other houses, and you could see there's going to be there's a wall here now, but there would have been dirt. All of this would have been dirt. And so whatever they were doing, okay, so when I look at it, I see depth, right? So I'm thinking okay, you got a sewer line that doesn't work, or you got something like that. You're not going to be digging that deep, but that's what happened. So ended up, they had to obviously what do they call it? Not the antiquities, but whatever the organization in Israel with their government that kind of discovers these things, they had to purchase obviously the land, and they had to remove the house. They had to take the house down, or whatever was here. So they started taking the dirt out. Again, this is the same process. They're taking the dirt out bucket by bucket. We stood there because it was an active site while we were there. We stood there and we watched the guys filling the buckets up using the picks, the shovels, filling them up. And there was a container that's right there, and they're literally taking the buckets, dumping it in that container. And obviously that container then is going to an off-site place to go through it. Yeah, there's a car right there. See the car? Right there. This is their construction trailer, what would be for us a construction trailer, kind of like their headquarters. So, yeah. Now, I don't know that this stuff moves, if I'm honest. This stuff is it seems like it's built in such a way that you could literally bump it with a backhoe or a bulldozer, and I don't think it's going to move much. I mean, they use so much concrete and stone and stuff like that. I just, I don't think that there's a worry. These people, have a worry that this is going to slide down the hill anytime soon. So again, this is new, so you're not going to see a lot. I took the picture of the sign. That's just, you can't go in. And it says, Antiquities. The Antiquities Authority of Israel. Israel's Antiquities Authority. So you can't go down here. This is the way that it would lead to the Pool of Siloam. But you can see the steps. So these would have been the steps that would have led down. These would have been the steps that people would have just sat there on the side looking down towards the pool. The pool would have been down in this area here. And so they've obviously put this is not old, this wooden walkway, and they've put these rails here because they don't want anybody down there. Here's some other shots as far as, it was really tough to take shots here because you just really couldn't get close. And again, they're still uncovering it all. So this is a shot of the side of the hill, okay? So this is the walkway. And this here, again, right down there is where the steps started. These steps are right there. Okay, see the tent right there, the white tent. They're still they were digging, like I said, while we were there. These are the steps where people would have sat. So, okay. These are some more just of the steps. There's more steps going that way. There's more steps here, more steps here. So all the steps would have led down into the pool where you would have went to cleanse yourself. Okay. Here's another picture just of the site overall. Again, steps would have been here. Steps are there. Steps are going down that way. Pool would have been right down in that area here, one part of the pool. Again, they're still digging stuff out. There's that little white container there where they take stuff and take it away. Okay. So if you take and just do a quick study, because obviously tonight I didn't read anything as far as Pool Bethesda, Pool Siloam, but if you just take a quick study in the New Testament, you can find where those two pools are very prominent in the New Testament and in the life of Jesus as well. Okay. Okay. What we'll do is, let me see here. So we've got still to talk about. We still have. We've talked about the Pilgrim's Road. We talked about the pools. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the upper room, and I don't know if we'll get to the garden. So we'll talk about the upper room for a few minutes, and maybe the garden, and then maybe we'll stop after the upper room because the garden and Caiaphas' house kind of go together a little bit. Maybe we'll stop tonight after this next one. Okay. So when it comes to the upper room, this is a tough. I wish it was a little bit clearer for you guys on the screens, but it's just kind of a tough. There's a sign here that says upper room, and you go up this way. Okay, so this is kind of the walkway up into the upper room area. It's kind of a dead end area where it's at. Are they 100% sure that it's the upper room? They are not. Okay, they're not. What they did is they looked at obviously location. They looked at things that obviously the scripture. They tried their very best, but there is a chance that it is not the actual upper room. Okay, so sign here that says room of the Last Supper. Like I said, when you're walking up this trail here, or this not trail. I don't know why I said that. This road here, this path, when you're walking up this, you kind of dead end into this area here. Okay? Follow me? So sign right here, that sign is actually right there. This opening here is the opening to the upper room. So you go through this opening right here to get to the upper room. Scared me. So significance of the upper room. One of my students asked me, they said, hey, are we talking about upper room, like, are we talking Acts or are we talking Jesus? I'm like, we're talking Jesus. We're talking Last Supper, okay? So we're talking the Last Supper. So what is this significant for us, right? Why is it significant? Why the Last Supper or the upper room, why is it significant for us? Anybody? Okay, last meeting with the disciples. Say that again. Yep. So communion, right? So this is the spot where we see as far as communion, as far as the bread and the wine or the juice, however you want to classify it. This is obviously for us in our faith today, our faith tradition this very day. This has a huge impact, right? I mean, one of the ordinances of the church is communion, right? So we stand behind that. We don't shy away from that. We believe, obviously, that is an ordinance that we believe in Assemblies of God. As far as our church, we believe that communion is very, very important, right? Remembering it. So you've got this Last Supper. So a couple things. Real quick, when you go through here, you're going to start upstairs because it's the upper room, right? So it's not going to be on this level. So you're going to start through stairs, and then when you come out of the stairs, you're going to be on someone's roof, right? So you're going to walk across someone's roof, which is, I guess, typical in Jerusalem. You're going to walk across someone's roof, and then you're going to come into what is the upper room. As far as it's a very fascinating room. I'm not going to lie. Let me ask this, or let me just tell you this. So when we covered this in school, and again, I have middle school and high schoolers that I see every day. So I when we got to this part, I asked them. I said, in your mind, like paint a mental picture of what you think of it when you think of the upper room, the Last Supper, right? And so they did. And I asked them, I'm like, hey, what are you thinking? And most of them said, like, well, a table kind of smaller where everybody could kind of gather around, somewhat close, and so forth. And, like you're thinking, well, I told them, like, you got to think no chairs, okay? So if there's a table, it's going to be lower. You're going to be able to sit around it and stuff like that. But I told them, I said, if you would have asked me what I would have thought before I visited, I would have thought table, not huge, but longer, right? A little bit dark, right? Maybe some lights, or not lights, but candles, or something that you would needed a little bit light. But the reason is because it would have been intimate. Like it would have been a pretty special, intimate moment with Jesus, right? So when you get up there, it is, as you're going to see in just a second, it is not close to anything that my students pictured in their minds or verbalized, or even mine, right? So this is the upper room. So these are a couple of the pastors that I was with. I couldn't always get them out of all the pictures. I couldn't be like, guys, move. But I had to, obviously, sometimes I tried my best to take pictures when nobody was in it. But these was one of the times we couldn't. So you've got this upper room. You've got the ceilings in here were fascinating because they had these domes, and they actually went multiple different directions. They weren't all going the same different directions. You obviously have these columns that are holding this up. This is not on the ground floor. This is up another level. This would be the second floor level. So you had all these weird, I don't know what this is. I didn't ask. No one said anything. You've got stained glass. Obviously, that's not original. So they've obviously done some things to it. Here's a little picture when I finally got the guys to leave. They were leaving, and I just stepped back in and took a picture. Just look at all the shapes of the ceiling. I mean, it's super, super fascinating. And I wanted to, let's see here, real quick. We got a few minutes. We're fine. Hold on just a second. Here, let me flip over really quick because now that you're looking at it, if this is where I'm looking for, 12. Okay, so let me just read this really quick. So this is just keep this in mind. This is the upper room. Okay, so this is it. No table. Acoustics were pretty good. Like you could literally sit there and have a conversation because of the domes. Like it would have been easy for Jesus to literally sit around and just talk to his disciples. So I'm in Mark 14. You don't have to turn there. Mark 14, 12. And on the first day of unleavened bread, when they sacrificed the Passover lamb, the disciples said to him, where will you have us go and prepare for you to eat the Passover? And he sent two of the disciples, and he said, go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. And wherever he enters, say to the master of the house, the teacher says, where is my guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples? And he will show you a large upper room, furnished and ready. There prepare for us. And then the disciples set out and went to the city and found just as he had said and told them. And they prepared the Passover. And when it was evening, he came to the 12, and as they were reclining at the table and eating, Jesus said, truly I say to you, one of you will betray the one who is eating with me. They began to be sorrowful and say to him, one after another, is it I? He said to them, it is the one of the 12, the one who's dipping bread into the dish with me. For the Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to the man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had never been born. Verse 22. And he said, they were eating, they took bread, and after blessing it, he broke and gave it to them. Take, this is my body. He took the cup when he had given thanks, and he gave it to them, and drink of it. And he said to them, this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many. Truly I say, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until the day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God. So just imagine if this is, again, not 100%, but if this is the spot where what I just read you took place. That, the disciples are out, as Jesus said, they're out walking on the streets. You're going to find somebody. He's going to lead you to a guest room that's going to be prepared for us. It's going to be ready for us. It's going to be on the upper level of his house. Just imagine if this is really the spot. If it really is. I mean, for us to think about the last meeting. Like, you think about these disciples that have literally just walked with Jesus through all kinds of crazy stuff, miraculous things. Jesus was the ultimate leader. He was the ultimate savior. He was the ultimate. He was the ultimate example of how all of us were to live. And yet, sitting there with him, after all of those moments, he starts calling out somebody, right? I mean, just think about if this is the spot that all of this took place, and then think about now for us. The next time you take communion, think about Jesus and his disciples sitting around some type of table here, breaking the bread, taking the cup, passing it, blessing it. Like when you see those things and then you read these things, obviously that's one of the benefits of this type of trip is to when you read your Bible, it just reads a little bit different.